Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Australian Army Band Corps is Warrant Officer Class 2 Joanne Davey. We warmly welcome the family of the Dorizzi brothers, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Please sit if you wish to do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Thomas Henry Dorizzi, Private Herbert Dorizzi and Private Gordon Dorizzi. Thomas, born on the 24th of February 1914, Gordon, born on the 30th of May 1916, and Herbert, born on the 29th of April 1918, were all born to Thomas Joseph and Mary Ann Dorizzi in Perth. In 1929, the family rented out the Newcastle Jail in 2J as a private home. While their parents slept in the front rooms, Thomas, Gordon, Herbert and two other brothers each had one of the cells for a bedroom. The family owned and ran a woodyard and later a cartage and contracting business called T. Dorizzi and Sons, for which the brothers all worked. Thomas ran the family business for a time. He married Harriet Smith, known as Nellie, and the two of them had a daughter, Geraldine, whom they referred to as Tiddles. The Dorizzi boys were popular in the community and active in the local football and swimming clubs and the fire brigade. They enjoyed dog racing and engaged in hunting and fishing. Though the brothers enlisted in the AIF on different dates, Herbert on the 13th of August 1940, Gordon on the 30th of October 1940 and Thomas on the 14th of May 1941, they were all posted to the 2nd 4th Machine Gun Battalion, which was raised as one of the support units to the 8th Division, already serving in Singapore. They spent some time training in Australia before embarking for Singapore on the 30th of December 1941. Arriving in January 1942, the 2nd 4th Machine Gun Battalion was quickly put to work defending the island from the invading Japanese force. The battalion lost almost a third of its strength in the fighting. On the 15th of February, the Australians surrendered, and the Dorizzi brothers were among the thousands who became prisoners of war. The brothers were initially held with the rest of their battalion at Changi prisoner of war camp, but the Japanese soon called for working parties to build and expand new infrastructure across their empire. In July, B-Force was formed. Herbert, Thomas and Gordon Dorizzi volunteered, assured of better food and conditions, but found themselves on a hellish sea journey to Borneo, crammed into cargo holds for 11 days before arriving at Sandakan. Though initially bearable, conditions at Sandakan devolved into some of the worst experienced by prisoners of the Japanese. Prisoners, including the sick, were forced at gunpoint to work on the construction of a military airstrip and were often beaten by their captors. Illness and death ravaged the camp and food was scarce, and by January 1945 the prisoners were fending for themselves. The completed airfield was soon destroyed by Allied aircraft bombing, and on the 28th of January 1945, 455 of the fittest prisoners were ordered to march to Ranau, a distance of around 260 kilometres. All were suffering from malnutrition, some from disease. Herbert and Thomas left on the first march, but Gordon was deemed too sick to join them and remained behind. The march was horrendous. The guards refused to let the prisoners rest, and those too sick or weak to continue were left behind, to die. Among these was Herbert Dorizzi, who died of beriberi on the 11th of February. Back in Sandakan, Gordon Dorizzi died of disease that same day. Thomas endured the rest of the march, during which many died from disease, starvation or at the hands of the guards, who regularly clubbed or shot to death those unable to walk. He made it to Ranau, but died from beriberi on the 11th of March 1945, only a month after the death of his brothers. The names of Thomas, Herbert and Gordon Dorizzi are commemorated on the memorial at the Labuan War Cemetery in Malaysia. Back home in 2J, an article in the local paper expressed overwhelming sorrow and sympathy for the Dorizzi family. The untimely ending of their young lives will remain in saddened memories as a reminder that war holds no glamour for the men who go into the fighting line. In 1997, the Doritzi Memorial Cell was set up in the old Newcastle Jail Museum, where the boys had lived as boys. Their names are listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, along with some 40,000 others from the Second World War. Their photographs are displayed by the pool of reflection. From left to right are Gordon, Herbert and Thomas. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Thomas Henry Doritzi, Private Herbert Doritzi and Private Gordon Doritzi, who gave their lives for us, for our freedoms and the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and good evening.